without SoundCloud, like myself and there's a lot of other people that like I wouldn't have had that lane or that opportunity to show their music to the world. I think because no one really showed me and I kind of taught myself everything, that kind of helped give me my own unique sound. And I would have kind of unorthodox, weird ways of like making something interesting. And I think in doing that, I set myself apart. Skrillex had taken a bunch of time off, and he came back and did this BBC Essential mix, and he put one of my songs in there called The Dip. I started working with Diplo because the song came out. Then I remember he DM'd me on Twitter and was like, hey dude, congrats on the record, or I love it, or whatever. I forgot what he said to me. He was like, we should work on some music together.
Hi guys, this is Lauren Engel of Sidewalk Talk. I'm here with Valentino Khan.
What's up?
It's our first time actually properly meeting because we kind of saw each other and knew each other at the Miha show. And I have a video of that.
Yeah, I kept looking at you like, this girl looks really familiar. I've seen her before.
Oh my god, from these YouTube. And here we are.
Then I think you like tagged me on Twitter or something, and then I was like, oh, that's what that was. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but now we've met.
We're doing this.
There we go.
So you were actually born in LA, right?
That's right, yeah.
Were your parents born here as well?
No. Like my mom is from New York and stuff, so, but I feel like I love LA so much, and I've traveled so many places, but I would never like actually leave.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
To me, it's like we have the best. No disrespect to anywhere else, but we have the best of everything. I think part of it is like we have all these different cultures, and it's a big melting pot over here.
Yeah.
And everybody's come here, so you can get the best. Like if you want like Ethiopian food.
Yeah.
I've still never had that actually, but yeah, if you want anything, like it's all the and like there's a great music scene out here, which just makes sense for me, and like all my friends live out here. I can't really see myself living anywhere else.
What was the electronic scene like when you were growing up in LA?
It was really interesting. I think like you had like Cinespace and like Justice and like all the Ed Banger guys were like, I think even though those guys like lived in France, they were still a huge influence. I think how not just myself, but like a lot of people I've talked to, like a lot of my peers, in terms of like what they first heard or what they first were influenced by. And yeah, it started out small, and like now people are doing these massive, hard-ticketed events. So it's been cool to see it grow. And I think you just have to be, I think you just have to be happy that it's grown to the point that it has. And because it's easy to be like, you know, a lot of people are like, for some reason are bitter when their favorite artist blows up.
Yeah.
And they're like, I liked them when no one knew about them. Well, it's like, did you really like them for the right reasons in the first place?
Yeah.
Then, you know? So I think you just have to be happy about it. And yeah, all these artists are like doing different things than they started out doing. So you just have to like, I think just be happy about the growth.
Yeah. Do you think there are any disadvantages actually for LA being such a strong hub now? Because like all the producers are moving out here. Like.
Yes and no. It's a double-edged sword, because it's like, yeah, it's definitely more crowded out here now. I think just in general, not even just LA, just in like dance music world, where it's more and more people have found out about it, more and more people are doing it. So it's harder to stand out from that like viewpoint, but at the same time, it like I said, it has grown in popularity. So if your stuff is really good, I think at the end of the day, it will get discovered, and it will the cream rises to the top. You know, I think that's ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So when you were growing up, you already like firstly heavily into like hip hop, right? So like Dr. Dre, all that. Yeah,
exactly. Like those are like my big influences. Like Dr. Dre, Neptunes, Timbalands. You know, that really like showed me what a producer is, and because I was like, oh, that's the guy that makes the instrumental, like the beat underneath.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, I feel like it wasn't getting as much shine. You know.
Mm-hmm. How did you even find hip hop initially?
I just grew up listening to it. We played around the house, you know.
Oh, really? Your parents played hip hop?
Yeah, like
that's so
that's
cool.
The thing is like we had like really cool musical influences around the house. So like listen like Prince and James Brown and like LL Cool J or like I don't know whoever was out at the time, like Ice Cube.
So are your parents creative or?
Yeah, like my mom sings. That's why I probably get all my musical talents from her side, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, I just realized I had a talent at it when I was you know, probably in like my early teens, and then I just ran with it and realized that I love doing it and that it was something I could be doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And not feel like it's a job, you know.
Yeah. So what was she doing full time, your mom?
Just working different jobs, but like yeah, she has all the musical talent. Yeah.
And your brother was also like influential, right?
Yeah, like he was the guy that like showed me what dance music was, to be honest. I was just listening to hip hop at the time, and then I came by his room one time and he was playing Waters of Nazareth by Justice, and I was like, that's really interesting, like give me that record. And then from there I just started listening more and more to it, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make this music, you know. And then then I just got better and better at it and learned how to DJ, and long story short, I'm here now.
How do you describe yourself back then growing up?
Definitely really creative. I think no matter what ever since I was a kid, like no matter what I did, even if it was like doing a painting in art class, like I would always like try to go the extra mile and make something as crazy as possible, or just unlock my creativity to the fullest.
Were you more of like a introverted person growing up, or like what kind of?
No, I think I kind of have a balance between both, whereas like when I'm in LA, I'm not like out like partying or going to clubs, but at the same time I'm not like a guy that's like socially awkward or like a hermit, you know what I mean? So I think I have a balance of both, probably, to be honest.
What were your favorite subjects back then in high school, like growing up?
Not much of it. I mean, honestly, like anything that I could do that was creative. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. And you know, being able to actually do that was like, and you know, achieve that dream is. I think there's not a lot of people that can say they wake up in the morning and they really love what they do for a job. So I'm really fortunate, I think, in that respect, that I'm able to do that, you know? Yeah.
And, well, since you had, like, an early music interest, did you do instruments?
So when I started out, I didn't really know how to play an instrument, so I would just sample. I would look up, like, who did, like, Wu-Tang Clan sample, or who did, like, early Kanye West sample, and then I would go digging into those records, kind of, like, and just download, like, hey, this is all like the Charmels or Gladys Knight. I just download all those records and then find my own samples. Yeah. But then there became a time where like, well, I didn't find any good samples today, so I can't make music. And that was, I felt like handcuffed like that. So I said, you know, I'm going to teach myself how to play a piano. Yeah.
When did you actually start having an interest in music? And like, did you put stuff out online? Like, maybe this was before SoundCloud days or during, like, when was the first time?
I never really put anything online. Like seriously until like SoundCloud really. Because I think I never really had like, I think dance music was like, I could see a path and like a lane and like a direct route of like, oh, I can actually do this, and I'll have a lot of fun doing it, and it makes sense. I think SoundCloud, you know, it's kind of sad like the state of SoundCloud right now, because without SoundCloud, like myself and there's a lot of other people that like I wouldn't have had that lane or that opportunity to show their music to the world. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for that. I mean, that was like the early stages, I should say. Me being on SoundCloud or just putting out random songs and then building a fan base, you know.
So what happened after high school?
I just put all my eggs in one basket and I said I'm gonna make music.
Oh, where was your career at that point? Like after you finished high school?
I did music.
How are you having a living?
Huh?
Like how are you like?
I just started making music, and I just you know, that was what I was doing since after high school. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you work like other jobs or?
I had one job that was an internship, but that was that. And then I just said, you know what, I'm young enough. I think in my mind, I said I'm young enough where I can take this risk right now. Go at music. Yeah. Where it's kind of, if it doesn't happen, then I know it wasn't meant to be that way. Yeah. You know, and so I just put myself out there, and sure enough, you know, step by step, I ended up making a living out of it.
Yeah. Did you always go by Valentino Khan?
Yeah, because I started out producing rap records for people, so I did stuff for like T.I. and 2 Chainz.
Yeah, how did that actually come about?
I was just sending beats to their camp, you know, and then...
how long ago was this?
That was like, I don't know, a few years ago at least.
Yeah.
And then doing that, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to use my real name when I'm as like the production credits. And then after that, it was like, once I started to like gain traction with the dance music stuff, at the same time, it was like, well, I want everybody to know that like I'm kind of doing all this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like there shouldn't be a different alias for like me as like a beat maker and me as like artist, DJ.
Actually, how did you get even inside those like hip hop camps? Because I've heard they're really like tight with who they work with.
Just the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've become like, since the last few years, they've become definitely like tighter with who they work with, and like people just don't. They just love to work with like who they know, and like they don't jump outside of that much. But yeah, just the internet. It was just emailing beats, and then that's how it happened.
Like, why did you decide to go from like hip hop to more electronic?
I think, you know, I still do both. Like I produced a record for Dizzy Rascal off his last album, and I just think that for me, it's just the artist side has taken precedence, and that's kind of what I'm more focused on right now.
Yeah.
I definitely like the freedom of it, where I'm like in control of everything.
Yeah.
Basically, and like I can make whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
You know, like that's really interesting to me.
Was there a turning point that clicked to you that why you wanted to be more of the artist and not just like a behind the scenes guy?
No, I wouldn't say it's a specific turning point. I think it was just like, hey, you're getting more and more traction in this world and in this lane. You know, take advantage of it and put all your best efforts into it.
Yeah. And the first songs you made were more like Moombahton, right?
Yeah, like my early songs were like a lot of Moombahton records. That's kind of what was hot at the time. I think like people like Dave Nada and like Dylan Francis. Who else was making Moombahton beats? Like Bro Safari, etc. Diplo, like all these guys that were kind of. I think it was a lot of like the Mad Decent camp was really pushing that forward.
Wow, yo, liquid ass. I can't stand it.
What about that type of music initially inspired you to make the similar type?
I just tried it one day and I realized like, oh, I have like a kind of a knack for making that style, but at the same time I always knew that like I never tried to pigeonhole myself, and I always knew that like I'm a versatile producer and I don't necessarily stick to one thing. So every time I started to get labeled as like, oh, he's a Moombahton guy, or like he's a trap guy, or he's a house guy, it's like I'd switch it up, you know what I mean? And that was really fun to me too, where I can basically be doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
And not box myself in. I just think it's more fun for me that way, and I think there's more longevity that way, and it keeps things more interesting, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you have kind of two separate mindsets for like, okay, this is the music for me, and this is more of like the hip hop side that I want to like push it to rappers? Yeah,
definitely. I think there's a different like production process with both too. It's like when you're working with a vocalist, forget even just rappers, like when you're working with a vocalist, like you have to leave space for that vocal.
Yeah.
You know, what's the direction of this record? Like, how much of like a vocal am I going to use? Because I've done sessions where like I've tracked a bunch of stuff. I just took a little snippet of what the vocalist did and completely flipped it. Like the song I did, Hello, with Kino, I actually made it a New Orleans bounce beat underneath him, and which is like his forte. But then ended up like speeding it up into like this like weird house record. So that's definitely another side to it. Is like it's about kind of getting what you need and then flipping it the other way, and you have the freedom to do that as like your own artist. I think, you know.
How were you able to teach yourself all this initially?
Just a lot of just messing around, to be honest. Yeah, that's really what it was. I think I sort of knew basic like piano scales, probably, that helped me with the piano. And then in terms of like sound design, it was just like we just started like turning knobs in like in the production software and be like, oh, this does this, And then I think because no one really showed me and I kind of taught myself everything, that kind of helped give me my own unique sound. And I would have kind of unorthodox, weird ways of like making something interesting. And I think in doing that, I set myself apart where I didn't really want to sound like anybody else. Unorthodox like upbringing where I just kind of taught myself a bunch of this stuff. It's definitely a source of pride for myself because I knew like everything I've achieved is like really from the work that I put in. You know, I mean, people have helped me along the way, of course, but ultimately in terms of like, you know, the production and just my overall like skill as a producer, it's just from me messing around and spending countless hours just in front of the computer, basically.
Yeah. How did you start meet like OWSLA and all those people?
Skrillex had taken a bunch of time off, and he came back and did this BBC Essential mix, and he put one of my songs in there called "The Dip." To this day, I still don't know who gave him the record. But then I finally like formally met him at at EDC Las Vegas.
Oh, what year was this?
Oh, I want to say 2013. And yeah, I finally, you know, met him and I was like, hey dude, I just want to thank you for using my song in your mix. And he's like, oh, what's your name? And I'm like, Valentino Khan. He's like, oh man, I like love all your records and stuff. And like I said, I still don't know who gave the music to him still, so I can't like thank anybody. But
oh my gosh.
And then from there, you know, went on tour with him. And then organically, I had a bunch of songs that I was looking to package into like an EP. And he actually even asked me, like, what are you doing musically? Like, would you want to do a release? And I was like, yeah, it's funny you're asking. Because I was like, I've been looking to put these songs out somewhere. So that's how it all came about to you know, releasing music with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about Diplo? Were we at some, like, San Diego zoo or something with, like, snow lions?
Yes.
Snow leopards.
Yes, exactly. I put out, so Paul Devereaux found this Moombahton record I put out, or I was about to put out, called Ruckus with Will Bailey. And then he hit me up like, yo, I want to release this on Mad Decent. So I was like, cool. Like, just took it away and kept it for Mad Decent. And then I started working with Diplo because the song came out. Then I remember he DM'd me on Twitter and was like, hey dude, like congrats on the record, or I love it, or whatever. I forgot what he said to me. And then he was like, we should work on some music together. He sent me his number, I sent him mine, then he called me in like a few minutes. And he was like, hey, what's up, this is Diplo. And I was like, I played my first show, and I was at the San Diego Zoo before I headed back home. So yeah, I was looking at snow leopards, and I picked up my phone, and yeah, that was the first time I talked to Diplo.
Wait, what year was this?
2012.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So yeah, that's when all that happened. And then yeah, then we ended up working on music together, did Bubble Butt together for Major Lazer, and yeah, he's always been in my corner since like day one.
After that, what was the big like moment for you? The next one?
I mean, after that was probably, you know, having the OWSLA influence and, you know, meeting Skrillex, I think. But I've always looked at my career as kind of like a progression, you know. I think I've had certain big records that have like taken me to, you know, a new level.
Yeah, actually, do you anticipate those records?
Huh? No, that was one of those records where I just made it, and I was like, I want to make a cool house record, and I don't know who's gonna play it. Like maybe my peers will play it, but then the song blew up, and then it blew up even bigger because guys like in like the main stage house world, like Afrojack and Calvin Harris, Axel and Grosso, started playing that record, and then like that really like. I never expected that because I was like, to me, I just made this like cool house record. I didn't expect it to be like translate over into that world. But I've heard many times before this. It's like, it's a lot of times it's that record that you didn't necessarily expect, you know, and that's the one that like vaults you to a new level. So yeah.
Actually, what, for your even like branding or aesthetic, like what are you inspired by, like non-music wise?
I'm kind of just inspired overall, but I think just like the creative energy that's around the scene, you know. But at the same time, like I said, I never want to like be exactly like someone else. Like I want to have my own voice, whether, you know, is whatever I'm doing on my social media, or it's the music or whatever. Like I want to be my own individual, you know. So.
Well, how did the idea for the pump come about? I was surprised that was on YouTube. It's kind of sexy.
Yeah. So yeah, I had made this beat, and like during a studio break. I was in Korea with Skrillex actually, and then we took a studio break for like real quick, and I made this beat, and then got the right vocal on it, and yeah, then it you know, it did really well, thankfully.
Yeah. How about the video itself?
The video, we got this really cool treatment, and it was like, it's a party full of naked hipsters, but there's like a twist to it. Where I like playing off of cliches. When you first look at it, it's like, oh, it's another video with like a bunch of scantily clad people and like naked people. And it's like, there's nothing different about this. But then you start to see like the sensor blurs moving, and there's there's a twist to it. So I like the concept of playing off of that, kind of tricking people into like, well, this is what you expected, but that's not the way it's gonna go.
Since a lot of electronic music is really trend-based, how do you like veer off that, or how do you find your own path amidst all that trend-based stuff?
To me, it's just try to be good at everything. But that's what I wanted to do. Maybe that's not necessarily for everybody. So like, I think everybody has a different journey and different path to so realizing their success. Yeah. And for me, it was like, that's what made sense for me, and that's what was exciting to me. But there's other people that, you know, like, I'm just gonna make dubstep. There's nothing wrong with that, and like, but they kill it at it, you know. So yeah, I think that's like I said, everybody kind of has their different path to getting to where they need to get to.
How do you think your music has changed since the early songs you put out?
I've definitely gotten better at like mixing down records, and just like I've just gotten better at it. I think it just like I'm constantly trying to like come up with a more cleaner sound or something that's a little more left field. I think it's like
school just finished, guys.
I just keep trying to do kind of weird, unorthodox things. You know, designing the sounds that are in my records. I think because, like I said, I wanted to stand out from everything else. Where like Pump, you can look at it and be like, well, if you want to define it, like, what is it? It's a house record. But like the sounds that I use in it, I try to use sounds that like I've never heard before personally. And that's really what's appealing to me. It's cool to step into certain worlds, but like do your own take on it. Like there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
How do you think you've grown as a person since when you started?
I think I've learned patience. And it's a really valuable trait to have. And not just patience with the world, but like patience with yourself. I think like part of what I had to learn when I was first starting out making music was, hey, like, let's say I'm trying to achieve a certain sound or just get better in general. And it's like, hey, you might not nail it the first time, the second time, the third time, but eventually, like, you'll get there. And that moment when you finally do, it's really satisfying because you remember, like, the struggle of, like, actually trying to get better and improve on yourself. So I think to be able to do that, you have to have patience with yourself, and that's something I had to personally learn, I think.
What does success look like to you?
Having an upward trajectory and constantly growing. But everybody has a different definition of it. I think success is really like, if you wake up and you're happy in the morning and you've achieved the goals that you set out to achieve, I think that's what it's about. You know? That might mean, like, outside of music, it's like you're a baker and you're like the sickest baker on your block.
I love that.
Yeah, you're making the most fire bread rolls, you know?
Oh my god.
You know? That might be what it is. So like I said, but if that's what makes you happy to wake up and do that in the morning, then I think that's like really what it comes down to.
Last question, what do you want to be remembered for?
Somebody that pushed music forward, I think. Somebody that was like a pioneer, you know what I mean? And like I think what we're doing, you hear it a lot in pop music, but they're like taking a lot of the sounds that we're using in our world, and then incorporating it into those records. Like, for example, like if you listen to the radio right now, like 70% of it is like Moombahton records, basically, which is like, it's funny because it was like Moombahton died, and then really didn't, because they just like lived on through pop music. So
yeah,
it's like electronic reggaeton, which is basically moombahton. So being part of that and you know, being someone that like has the respect of my peers, I think that's really important. And there's no disrespect to anybody else, but I think like having the respect of my peers is like they've all been through it, and they know what it entails to like make a great record or, you know, live on in this world. And I think like if you're able to have the respect of those people around you, it's really meaningful.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Of course, yeah.
Bye, guys.